this country, we're told by every single healthcare professional that there's autism is like a lifelong condition. There's nothing that can be done. You just have to live with it. And I imagine that if we don't do everything we can for Ronnie, what happens if, when we're gone, that he's living in somewhere like that? The government has given up supporting people. He's left with no support. That's a motivator for me, massively.
Autism spectrum disorder, like disorder is in the diagnosis. There's disorder in the body. Any parent can relate. If your child is suffering, you're going to want to help them. Why is it so hard to do that with society and culture and the message they're sending? This is the Unspecial podcast, and I am so fortunate to be joined today by Parents Unheard as the Instagram handle. And they say parenting is hard, but no one talks about this kind of hard. The kind where you're fighting battles no one else can see, where you're smiling in public but barely holding it together behind closed doors. Today we're sitting down with parents who know what it feels like to be overlooked, unheard, and completely exhausted, but who keep showing up anyway. This isn't a polished version of parenting. This is a real story. The one that doesn't always get the likes, comments, or support, but deserves to be heard. Guys, welcome to the show.
Oh, we're glad to be on it, Zach.
Yeah. All right. PX Docs. I know you guys just finished a intensive with Ronnie. Ronnie is your son. How'd it go? I'm curious.
Amazing. So since we've got back, he has gone to bed every night with us just taking him up. He's been awake and he's just settled himself.
Wow.
He has never done that. We'd usually give him his melatonin, and what he would do is he'd fall asleep on the sofa, and then we'd have to carry him up 2 flights of stairs and get him to bed. And sometimes the melatonin wouldn't even work. He'd sometimes become quite aggressive. But yeah, every night since, he's settled himself.
Wow. And so that was immediate.
That's immediate.
On the first night of 5 days of PX Docs, he did that, and he's done it every day since, even after coming home.
And how long has it been since you've been home?
His first day of therapy was 9 days ago. Yeah. So we've been home since Friday, and it's now Wednesday. So yeah. But so I would say that we give him a micro dose of melatonin anyway. So the doctors had prescribed 2 milligrams with the freedom to give him up to 6 milligrams, but we were giving him that just after he was prescribed and realized he was waking up at 1 o'clock in the morning every single morning. So did loads of research and found out that he'd been overdosing basically on melatonin by a significant amount. But a huge amount of doctors, every single doctor in the UK will be prescribing that amount, because in the UK, the doctors are bound by something called the NICE guidelines if they're in the NHS, which means they have to prescribe medication at a certain dosage. But there is an enormous amount of research that shows that melatonin actually works optimally between 0.3 and 1 milligram, with the sweet spot being around about 0.5 milligrams. But they were prescribing what was a 4-year-old at the time, he's now 5, 2 milligrams up to 6. So that's basically 20 times the dose. So anyway, now I'm giving him, we've been giving him sort of like 0.5 milligrams, and he was struggling to get to sleep sometimes, wasn't he? He was like downstairs on the sofa, getting angry as it's starting to kick in because he doesn't know what's happening in his body. But since we've got back from the PX Docs, I've been giving him basically like a pinprick, like dust, little tiny bit in his drink, and he's been so gentle.
Yeah.
Going to bed, getting in bed, going to sleep, smiling, not crying when he's in bed. I mean, it's just unheard of, isn't it?
Yeah, and obviously the goal is now to just remove it entirely.
Yeah.
And they've said sort of 70 to 90 sessions. So, but I think within a couple more sessions, there'll be no reason for melatonin at all.
Right. That is unbelievable. And the listeners know, and how big of an advocate I am for PX docs. I mean, it's transformed my kids, and just that the simplicity of the nervous system, and when it's dysregulated, it causes so many challenges. And when you can get it out of fight or flight and back to rest and digest, it's like, what does it do for you guys to know that you can go into a night sleeping?
Well, it's life-changing, isn't it?
It's absolutely life-changing, yeah. I mean, even just to have that evening and it be our evening. Because usually he'd be sat with us falling asleep. So we never really had any time on our own. Wow. And now we actually get to sit and talk. And it's like, oh, I do like you.
And I went to cricket. I went to cricket training last night. And it was like an early session. I mean, that's the first time I've been that early. I usually have to go very late at night when we know he's asleep. And then I'm exhausted the next day. So, I mean, it's just the gift that keeps on giving, really. Thank you to PX Docs.
Yeah, and it's not just that. So while we were away, he was sharing a room with his sister, and she woke him up twice. Now, usually if he woke up in the night, he'd be very aggressive. He'd be pinching, he'd be biting, and it would be hours of pinching and biting. But instead, he didn't fall back to sleep easily, but he cuddled my arm all night. Huh. That is really significant. He never would have done that. I mean, I would literally be covered in marks normally.
Wow. Yeah. That is just transformational. What did the intensive entail? It's 5 days?
Yeah, it's 5 days. When we got there, she just sort of really lightly touched his spine and up to his neck. And when she got to his neck, he had a meltdown. I've literally never seen him react like that to touch. And I was a bit like, what's going on here? And then she did the scan. And when she did the scan, there was basically a whole block by his neck. Wow. And she just said, he's in permanent fight or flight. So that tiny little, and she showed me what she did. She did it on me. It was just like a dusting on her finger. And she basically, that was like a tiger. So, Jeez. Yeah, I know. So the rest of his body, if you looked at the scan, it was basically blue. And in her way of explaining that was like his brain wasn't getting messages to the rest of his body. And then on the final day, he had a rescan and there was sort of more red on his body. And she was like, yeah, we've reduced some of that blockage now. His brain is actually talking to his body. He can feel his body.
It's just so wild. Crazy. It's so crazy. I know the first time I came across PX Docs, I had referred a guest to come on the podcast, and for I think it was an hour and a half long podcast, I didn't even know what to say. I was so blown away by everything she was talking about, and she is a PX doc. And then, fortunately, I've been able to be in touch with Dr. Tony, founder of PX Docs, and I've had him on the podcast, and it's just the most fun conversations ever because it's like such simple things parents can do for their kids that really transform lives. And their slogan is experience miracles. And everybody I talk to that goes through neurologic focused chiropractic experiences miracles. That you thought, did you think you would see these results this quick?
No,
definitely not.
But in this country, we're told by every single healthcare professional that there's autism is like a lifelong condition. There's nothing that can be done. You just have to live with it. And then, we don't believe that. So we go and do this PX Docs intensive over a week. And there are several other parents there at the same time. They don't believe that either. And everyone's sharing stories about how PX Docs has affected their children's lives. Wow. And also not just PX Docs, but other sort of alternative, sort of fringe, if you will, processes for dealing with autism. But, some of the stories are quite astounding, aren't they? About children, that particular story about the child who was so unbelievably dysregulated that he was constantly biting and there was nothing they could do about it. I think going through several intensives, maybe PX Docs, he's just the most mellow child you could ever imagine now. So
wow.
I think she said the first day he got there, he broke a plant pot. He was that wild. And when we saw him, he was just in the corner occupying himself. Like, yeah, unreal.
Yeah. And if anybody's new listening to PX Docs, just search pxdocs.com and you can find a PX Doc in your neck of the woods. They're all over the country. And we can't say enough about it.
Well, unfortunately, in this country, somebody will correct me on this. I think there's only like 4 or 5 clinics. And most of them are actually more towards the south. There's one that's just opened, Gatley area, which is near Manchester for us. So that makes it a bit more convenient for us. But we met several people who were traveling all across the country to come to where we went to. I mean,
wow.
one family, they were from Liverpool, and this was in Toasted. They were traveling 3 hours there, 3 hours back. Another family, they were from Peterborough, which was about an hour and a half away, but they told us they were going 3 times a week because they believe it so much. But imagine how much that actually takes out of your life.
Whereas I think in the US, I read that there are 700 PX Docs clinics. Is that right? Or I've just
yeah, no, I think that's pretty accurate. 700-800.
So you guys are you think in America, you think of this sort of thing in a very different way to how we do here, and it's so frustrating for us.
Yeah, I mean, we recently spoke to on our podcast. I don't know if you've heard of a woman called Erin. She runs a company called OT in America, and she does intensives all around the world. And we said to her, which country is the most closed off to therapies? And she said the UK. She actually said that she's had threats when she comes to the UK.
Wow.
Because she's doing like photobiomodulation. Have you heard of
that? Not.
It's like a low-level light therapy. It's like a really gentle laser that basically stimulates the vessels in the muscles or in the brain. And it invites more collagen into the muscle and the brain, which helps the brain develop.
Wow.
And there is some serious, properly serious research on this that's been going back all the way to the late 60s. Now, if you actually read the research, there's nothing dangerous or even alternative about it. But unfortunately, this country is so backwards, so behind. And it sort of worships the healthcare system here.
Yeah, if it's something's not recommended by the NHS, then it's a problem, isn't it? And we've actually heard several times recently of people having social services involved about their children, just because they've been trying to help their children.
With alternative methods.
Yeah, a bit one lady took her child out of the country to the Mayo Clinic in America. Not to get anything really invasive done, but just general testing, actually very similar testing to what we've done on Ronnie in this country. And she told the school about it, but only so that the school could kind of follow the same guidelines. And the school rang social services, and she had her kids taken off her for 3 days.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And then the child was kicked out of the school.
So,
yeah.
It's very, very different to the freedoms that you have.
We have every therapy you can think of probably within an hour. Yeah. And, we don't have that kind of consequences. I mean, and then for me, Mexico's right down the road. So there's a lot of options. So then how do you navigate all the hurdles to get Ronnie some of this alternative stuff that he needs?
We just get on with it and don't tell anybody.
Yeah.
We've been told just be careful about who you tell. But, the stuff that we do, none of it is illegal in this country, and we're doing it all within this country. So I think with that woman specifically, it was because she took them out of America. But from what I understand, she didn't do anything different than what you would do here. It was the taking them out of the country part, and then they saw that as a bit almost experimental.
Wow. That's bizarre. Well, power to you for pressing on, and obviously you're seeing some results, so that's incredible. What is it like there as far as dads being in the picture? Is it like here in the U.S. where, I mean, I'd say 8 out of 10 families. And I was talking with Tyler Hudson about this. That just the dads are out of the picture. Do you see that there? And what do you think that's all
about? You mean like dads not being around at all?
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that that's our experience of what we've seen.
No.
I don't know if you feel any differently than that.
No.
Like when we were at the clinic, for example, at PX Stocks, all of the families were saying, even if the dad wasn't there, maybe he was working or something, that he was very much in the picture. And there were dads there as well, looking after the children. And again, I wouldn't say that, because we live in a really small town in the Peak District National Park, I wouldn't say that we actually meet that many families in a similar situation to us to really compare that. I can really only go off like families that I follow on Instagram that are in the UK, and they generally seems to be quite together. But beyond that, we don't really have any friends that are in the same situation to us. So I can't really speak too much on personal experience.
Yeah. How about like with advocacy? Do you see dads advocating like yourself?
I would say it's very outweighed on the women.
Yeah.
That 100%. Definitely I would agree with. It's definitely a problem, I think, is that like when you look at Instagram, the mums are doing a great job, by the way. I would 100%. Think that, but I mean, I think it's hard for men to feel like they have a way of talking about their children and how that impacts their lives or how they've grieved that. I mean, I'm speaking on behalf of you, Joe, so I mean, it's better for you to say, really.
Well, I guess I'm not, I don't want to derail the conversation at all, but, because at the moment I'm doing the gut and psychology syndrome course, like to become an accredited coach. But the reason why that's interesting to me is because it's very analytical, and I want to be able to help Ronnie through the means of, helping him with his diet and helping him with therapies and things. But in terms of communicating, I think in a heartfelt way, that's probably something that I actually find quite difficult to do. So in terms of, I guess, advocating for Ronnie, my way of doing that would be to directly help him and learn, I don't want to say more mechanical means, but like sort of protocols that could really help his health. Whereas I think Kaylee is much better at communicating the emotional side of things. I don't know. And that probably is the case with a lot of men and women, to be honest.
100%. I was just talking about this with my wife yesterday. It's like, yeah, I would relate with you, Joe. It's like doing and finding and fixing and seeing a solution is much easier than sitting down on a couch and talking about my feelings.
Yes, exactly.
And then on an advocating side, not only sit down and talk about your feelings, but then project it to the world through social media.
Oh, Kaylee's fantastic at that. For me, that is genuinely, I'd rather pull my own teeth out.
Yeah.
Totally.
The best dad at that is Tyler.
Tyler is a different kind of animal. He's totally different
at doing that.
Oh, he's super philosophical. But it's the same when I was teaching. There maybe 9 out of 10 teachers were women, which for me it was like I was bulletproof. They're like, oh my gosh, there's a guy, he's young and he wants to teach profound autism. Hired. That's how I got hired on my first job. It was literally 10 minutes long, the interview, and it was like, you're actually willing to teach this class? I'm like, yeah. And they're like, okay, you're hired. Like, oh, that was easy.
Yeah, I've definitely noticed that in like Ronnie's school, all the teachers that we deal with, they're always women, aren't they?
Just the head teacher is a bloke.
Yeah. But I've never actually even spoken to him, to be fair, though. So it's generally you just deal with the women.
Yeah.
And his chaperone's a woman.
Yeah.
Did you say the head teacher's a bloke?
Yeah. He's a guy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really want to come to Australia. You guys seem like you got it figured out over there. All right, rapid fire. And then I want to get into your story, Ronnie's your journey with Ronnie from
Yeah.
the early days. But real quick, one word to describe your current season.
Go on. What do you mean by season?
Just your current season of life.
Oh, season of life. I would say
Okay.
focused. I think
Full.
yeah, yeah.
Focused and full. Okay. Something.
I would say relentless, actually, because we're not giving up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Any of those,
yeah.
I would definitely agree with.
Okay. And something you're tired of hearing.
Can I be controversial?
Oh, 100%.
I think he welcomes it, Joe.
That autism is incurable.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Yes.
I would agree with that one. And also that almost like all levels of autism is almost see it as the same because it's just a spectrum. No, there's very much a difference.
Oh, yeah.
I think when a child, there is enough evidence now in clinical practice that when a child's autism is diagnosed early enough and intervention is used early enough, they can recover. If it's too late, for Ronnie, it might be too late, but we'll do our very best to get him significantly better than he is now. And I think it's about, rather than treating autism as a genetic fixed disease or whatever else the neurodiversity people are calling it, actually looking at it like what does it call it? Like a dysbiosis, there's a problem and it's probably in his gut. And therefore we can do a lot to make that better. And then whatever happens as the outcome of that. But I'm pretty confident that he's going to be quite a different child in 5 years' time to how he would be if we weren't doing these things, which has been proven for me already with the experience with PX Docs, that we can actually genuinely influence his progress. But, the narrative in mainstream is the exact opposite of that.
Yeah, we're going to go down a rabbit hole. So, what? This was supposed to be rapid fire. No.
Yeah. Joe doesn't do rapid. He's deep only.
So, what I know, so autism is incurable. And then you have what society says, and you have parents. Speak to the parent side of things. Some families I've talked with are okay with where they're at now. Where do you get your motivation to not be okay with that? Of just like, oh, this is his life.
I would start by saying, and sorry for getting graphic early on, Ronnie's stools have never been right, ever. And that is a signal to me that he isn't well. It's not just autism. There's something wrong in his body for him to have never had a right stool. And so I treat him as being unwell. And as a parent, that's my role. And I don't want for my daughter, when we're gone, for this to be her life in caring for her brother. And so that's always in the back of my mind. If we work really hard now, where could we get him so that both of their lives are easier when we're not here?
Yeah.
So that's as a parent's perspective.
As a parent's perspective, that's what, for me,
I
is the reason.
completely agree. I mean, I drive through sort of like, the bigger towns and cities that are closer to us, sort of like half an hour away. I drive through some of the really not very nice areas of that town. And I imagine that if we don't do everything we can for Ronnie, what happens if when we're gone, that he's living in somewhere like that, the government has given up supporting people, he's left with no support. That's a motivator for me massively. Yeah. But also looking at it from a scientific perspective, there's been a lot of research over like the last 20 years that show that autistic children have like a high percentage of like candida fungi in their stomach, and if you clear that out, it can help them to develop significantly, because when that fungi crosses the gut-brain barrier, it can inflame the brain, and if there's inflammation in the brain, it won't be developing. So it's to me, actually, I'm not going to direct this at any other parent or any other child, but for me, it would be absolutely ridiculous for me, knowing that, to not try my very hardest to help him, because that's directly related to what Kaylee was saying with him having terrible gut issues.
Yeah, I think because we can visually see there's obviously a problem.
Yeah.
It's not just like he's got little quirks of things that he's into. We're not dealing with that kind of autism.
No.
Yeah.
It's obviously presenting in a way that he's got an illness inside of him as well.
That's the problem, is that we're now
it's not a personality trait.
In 2026, we live in a time where the average person's understanding of autism is like Elon Musk, or someone who's really into things. But that really doesn't describe Ronnie at all. There is absolutely no crossover in any way whatsoever. So, and going back 30, 40 years, autism, the way that autism is described, if you ever read like a scientific journal from 40 years ago, it pretty much perfectly describes what a profoundly autistic person's experience is like. Non-verbal, most likely, sensory processing issues, pica, horrendous gut issues. In fact, again, if you look through the literature, you will almost never find an autistic person who does not have gut problems. But so if at the very, 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 very least, Ronnie no longer has gut issues, that's, for me, fantastic.
Yeah.
Because that will change his life. Because he's frankly been living in pain his whole life.
Yeah, we often say that, so if people imagine that what we're doing, the goal is for him to speak. And I'm not going to say that if he spoke, it wouldn't be incredible. We would be like, wow, that's amazing. That would change our life. But that isn't the goal. The goal is for him to be healthier. The goal is for him to be happier in his body. Right. And being more present with us. It's not quite just speech. And if a speech never comes, that's fine.
The whole point of doing PX Docs is that if it regulates his nervous system, it's going to potentially give him the ability to learn. But learning doesn't necessarily mean that he speaks, but it means that we might be able to teach him to use the toilet himself. It might be able to teach him to use a letterboard to communicate with us. To use his pad to communicate with us. Obviously, there are many different forms of communication. It's natural that most of us think about speaking as the primary form of that. But really, that's not the way that we're thinking about it.
So would you say the biggest fears parents face is what happens when you're gone?
Is for me.
It definitely is for me. Especially because recently there've been a couple of news articles in the UK where councils have gone into homes and reassessed a disabled person without the family's knowledge. And they've been able to go and do that and then change their care plan without the family being present.
Ugh.
And that terrifies me.
Well, yeah, it seems as if, and this is very controversial, but nobody wants a family unit. Everything is, not everything, a lot of things are directed at separating family and putting more dependency on the powers that be. So it brings up my next question. That's the parent side. Why is it that society and culture doesn't have this idea that you can cure autism? There are things you can do to help your child. Autism spectrum disorder, like disorder is in the diagnosis. There's disorder in the body. Any parent can relate. If your child is suffering, you're going to want to help them. Why is it so hard to do that with society and culture? And the message they're sending is, this is a lifelong diagnosis. You can do nothing. Deal with it.
I mean, it's extremely complicated. I don't even know if I know the answer to that. I mean, I don't even know if it's particularly like a group of people that have made the decision to decide that autism is like incurable or anything. But I think that there is, there are so many different factors. I mean, all the way from this is a Del Bigtree one, but when Andrew Wakefield was made the scapegoat for finding out that there were measles strain, that the type of measles that was used in the vaccine inside the lymph nodes in the intestine of autistic children, I think that the reason that he was made the scapegoat is because somebody already knew that vaccine was causing autism in a percentage of children. Otherwise, they wouldn't have done it. They wouldn't have made such a massive deal and actually completely twisted his message. Because what he actually said, as Del explains, is that Andrew Wakefield said, look, we think that there's the measles strain from the MMR inside the gut of these autistic children. We recommend for a period of time until we find out more, just to go back to the single strain of measles vaccine rather than the combined vaccine. I don't see, there's nothing controversial in that whatsoever. But I think that story plays a role in the fact that the healthcare system around the world is holding on to the idea that autism is something that's genetic. There's literally no evidence for that, by the way, none. And that because it's genetic, then there's nothing you can do about it, like Down syndrome.
And there's even more to that.
Not Down syndrome, but like certain types of epilepsy, sorry.
Epilepsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and just say there's a little bit more to that story as well, as then the moment that he said that, they took the single doses off the market. Yeah. So you couldn't get measles and rubella separately, and mumps. And then, what was I going to say about that as well? I've just lost my train of thought. Yeah. So they took that off. They took that off the market, and then obviously all the parents that were then worried about the MMR, they were like, "Well, then I'm not going to vaccinate." And then they blamed Andrew Wakefield for that. But that wasn't Andrew Wakefield's fault. That was their fault. They took the single shots off the. He wasn't anti-vax.
So this is
he might be now, but he wasn't then.
This is one small part of it. And I mean, if you ask Dr. Natasha Campbell-McBride, the creator of the GAPS program, she would say that that it's due to like a technocratic problem in a corporate world that doesn't want people to be well because sickness is profitable.
Yeah,
that's what she does say, actually, and there's probably some truth in it. Let's be honest.
Well, I mean, think of it in a business standpoint.
Yeah,
the healthcare system is a business, and how do you drive profits? You make people dependable on your product.
Yeah,
and so if it were, and I know in the States here, Robert Kennedy's doing massive work in this arena and bringing light to some of these topics, but just play out how that would look if the vaccine program, the pharmaceuticals actually took liability and blame for it. Like
it would go bankrupt.
It would upend the entire program, let alone no money would be coming in and how much money they would have to pay out in lawsuits. So now, okay, now we're getting into it. The way I see it is it's all a massive cover up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And how do you say this? Okay, I'm for medicine when it's needed. It saved my son's life. It saved my wife's life multiple times. In those situations, absolutely. But when medicine is used as a Band-Aid and a crutch and you're not actually investigating the root cause, it's just making consumers dependable for life when there is PX docs and natural things you can do to actually heal. But they don't want you healed because healing doesn't make money.
Well, again, I'm going to just use her words because I heard it yesterday. But again, Natasha Campbell-McBride said that that vaccines are for healthy children. Right? She said they're designed for healthy children. So if a child is born with any kind of compromised immune system, which many children are today, putting a virus into their body, the body will not be able to fight it. And she said the very reason why Andrew Wakefield found measles virus in the lymph nodes of the top little part of the small intestine is because that part of the small intestine holds on to toxins that it's not sure how to deal with. And then if it holds on to them for too long, it breaks through the intestinal wall and into the bloodstream. So it makes complete logical sense why those children had measles vaccine in their gut and why they ended up developing autism. So it's not even silly, the idea. It makes complete sense. But the thing is, they just give vaccines to absolutely everybody. They could test the immune system of children before they vaccinate them. That would be one very logical thing they could do to stop this from happening.
Right, which shouldn't be that difficult, and I'm sure they can still make money on it.
Well, out of the PX Docs practitioner told Kaylee that in the past 4 months, every single parent who has come through the doors of the clinic has said to her that they believe the vaccine caused their child to be autistic.
Yeah, and I mean, I've heard.
I was just say there's this mainstream media narrative that they think that says that vaccines don't cause autism, blah 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 blah. Right. Well, that's all going on around, and everyone think, a lot of people think, of course, it's settled. Well, all these parents underneath saying nothing publicly all share the same view. So,
and that's always been. So I didn't. The vaccine situation. I didn't know, I was young. I didn't think about anything. But we were having our first child, and my wife was like, hey, we should look into these vaccines. And then that's when I first started teaching profound autism. And I remember 2 months in, I was looking around and I'm just like, is this what is happening? Why, how are all these students like this? So then I just started researching, and that's when I found Dell. And I binge watched everything, the High Wire, Vax, everything. And we decided we didn't vaccinate our children. And I saw Dell at the showing of Inconvenient Study. And I told him, he probably doesn't remember, everybody was talking to him. But I told him, I was like, hey, in all of these showings you have, you ask everybody to stand up who's been vaccine injured. And I was like, thankfully, because of you, I didn't have to stand up, but it's very powerful because of you, I didn't have to stand up. And I was like, I wonder if there's more of me in that crowd. And if you had people stand up who are vaccine injured because of the work of the High Wire and Dell, how that would be. And he was like, wow, I never thought of that. But yeah, it's wild. So with Ronnie, take me back to your early days. Does this all play into it?
Yeah. So for us, I would say Ronnie has regressive autism. So, he developed pretty typically. He hit all his milestones. The only thing that I would say that he was perhaps slightly delayed in was that he would say yes and no in response to questions, and it was in context. And then he would also shake his head and nod his head with that. So you knew what he wanted, but his speech hadn't really developed. But beyond that, he was pointing, waving. He was so social, wasn't he? He used to do this thing where he'd kind of in a very comedy way, raise his eyebrows at you. And then...
Well, there's one more thing.
Oh, go on.
From pretty much the day he was born, he's always had a bad gut. That's the thing.
Okay.
He's right. He would have, all children have punamis, right? They have bad toilet incidents, but he would have them very, very, very regularly, where he would just destroy his clothes almost every single time he went out. But that was from 3 months old or even younger.
Yeah. So we were aware of that, but we actually at the time, because he was our first, we didn't realize that wasn't typical.
Yeah.
But then in every other way, he was developing typically. And then it was about 13 months, he would have had the MMR. And then from there, on a sort of gradual scale, he just regressed all his skills. He stopped being able to point. He stopped being able to wave. He stopped saying yes and no. He stopped responding to his name. He stopped sort of being social. In fact, like if we were in social situations, he would cry. He'd only seek me and Joe out. He didn't want to be around the rest of the family. So he changed quite dramatically.
He went offline, basically.
Yeah, I would say that his light just switched off completely. And I think if you imagine that, like Joe said about his gut and the fact that his speech was already probably a bit delayed, it was almost like a tipping point. So I've often wondered if he was going to be autistic anyway, but let's imagine that that's made him level 3 autistic, and maybe he was only going to be level 1. That I would say that that's what I've questioned the most, but we'll never know that now.
Right. And Dr. Tony describes it as the perfect storm.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of things that build up, and then possibly the vaccines tip them over.
Yeah, that I would say that definitely. Especially like now we're trying to learn about gaps and the fact that before I had Ronnie, I was vegan. And then while I was pregnant, I was vegetarian. Now we meet, Ronnie has liver, he has beef, everything. But at the time, when I was pregnant with Ronnie, veganism was a really big thing. It's becoming less of a thing now. There was a lot of propaganda about it, and I bought into it entirely. I thought that was the healthy way to be. And I've always listened to all the health podcasts. I just threw myself into it. And I wasn't a bad vegan. Like, we were eating all whole foods.
Yeah.
But, now I learned from our gaps, that was completely wrong. We need to have that meat protein. We need to have those animal fats, and it needs to be really balanced. And actually, the fruits and the vegetables, they're really to detoxify and to cleanse the body, but they're not what feeds your body. So if you imagine that my body was, in a way, kind of starving, and then I have a baby...
And also that
how does that impact him?
Fruit and vegetables that we were eating were non-organic products that would have been sprayed with various types of antibiotic derivative products, basically, to help vegetables grow, to kill weeds, make them shinier, like make them grow, blah, 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 blah. So it's and all of that just adds up the perfect storm, for example.
Yeah, exactly. And like I say, then it just felt like that must have been the tipping point to cause this very severe regression, and it was severe. But
66%, so 2/3, obviously, of autistic children are firstborn. The firstborn, and what Natasha is saying, what she says is that there's like a toxic load that's passed down from the mother to the child, and that toxic load is effectively dumped onto the baby when they are born. But because the secondborn comes, and that toxic load has already been given to the firstborn. So unless the mother and the father is equally responsible, has been, not looking after themselves, or again, doing very innocent things like eating vegetables that have been sprayed with glyphosate, it's unlikely that the second child will be autistic or have what she calls gut and psychology syndrome, because it was the first child got the entire lifetime of toxic load from the mother, whereas the second child, with Darcy's case, was only 2 years of toxic load.
Oh, wow. That is so interesting. I've never heard
And the reason why that's quite likely is that when a baby is born, to feed their microbiome, so a baby's born with a completely sterile gut, so it's got no microbes in it at all. But as the baby is being born, at the point of birth, it swallows a huge mouthful of bacteria from the mother, which helps to build it. And over the first 20 days, that bacteria, that microbiome builds. If it's not given the opportunity to build properly, then you've got a problem. And that could very easily have been the case with Ronnie and pretty much anybody, not just with autism, but ADHD, autoimmune disorders, eczema, asthma, all sorts of things. And of course, asthma that won't be the only cause of asthma. There are others, but it's that it can cause asthma.
So interesting. Was there any birth trauma?
No, there wasn't. I actually, with both of them, had really good births. I didn't take any medication. I didn't have an epidural, and they just both came down normally. So yeah, that wasn't part of our story. But with Ronnie, I did have this thing called ICP, or I think it's, what was the word that it gets used for? OC?
OC, yeah.
OC and ICP. It's basically something to do with how your liver produces bile acids. Is that right? So there was like almost too much bile in my blood, and that would make my whole body itch every night.
It was awful, wasn't it?
It was awful. I was suffering every night of my pregnancy with Ronnie, just itching, and I put emollient creams on. And I was supposed to be induced with him because they think that it can be dangerous to the baby, although evidence is a bit funny on that, isn't it, after we did our own research. But then on the day that I was meant to be induced, he just came. It was like he knew.
Yeah.
I always just think that he was like, must have been hearing it and was like, no, I'm not going to let my mum go through that, because I was getting so stressed about it because I was so determined to have a natural birth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. You just don't know. Have an impact? I don't know.
Right. How do you wrestle with, like, looking back and being like, oh, I should have done this, could have done this. If I would have known what I know now, maybe the outcome could be different. And I wrestle with this too with my wife's cancer journey. It's like, how do you just, pick yourself up and be like, all right, that happened. I learned from it. I'm moving on. I won't do that again, but I'm just going to stay motivated and determined and press on.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that you can sit in it. Otherwise, I mean, it's a very hard place to sit in. And only yesterday, I think it was, Joe's doing the GAPS course at the moment. And Dr. Natasha says in this video, a child of like 1 or 2, if you start the GAPS protocol with them, then they'll fully recover. But, by the time they get to sort of like 5 or 6, they might not fully recover. They might still be disabled. You can improve their life, but they might not recover. And you cried because Ronnie's 5 and we're just starting GAPS now. And that is really sad, but we can't sit with it. We can't dwell on it. We can just do what we can now, because you can only ever know the information you know at the time.
Right. And then nowadays it's even harder because they try and hide it.
Yeah,
exactly. And I guess, I hope, the only thing we can do is say these things and hope that it helps parents with children that are younger or maybe not even born yet, because they can perhaps make different decisions and be more aware and alert to it.
Yeah.
And I think, there's a long way to go. I think.
Yeah, totally.
I think this is always going to be while we're living in a period of time where people don't want to accept. I mean, there's that narrative that autism is genetic, but like I said, there is literally no evidence for that at all. And I don't know how something with so little evidence is able to propagate through society with such power, because it's, again, maybe I'm just answering my own question, because it's exactly the same thing with the MMR stuff, because there is plenty of evidence to show that was causing a problem. They just didn't want to look because they knew what was going to be found and stuff. So I think it's always going to be fringe. It's always going to be controversial to talk about these types of things. But the positive thing is that the conversation is actually happening.
Mm-hmm.
It's just happening underground.
Yeah, well, this is the value of like podcasts like yours and connecting with other parents on Instagram, is that you help each other so much.
One of the most amazing things actually about RFK Jr. being in office, and with Trump, to be fair, is that now we are able to talk about these things, and now we are able to put these kind of subjects on YouTube, which would have been taken down in the past. The Del Bigtree is able to put his, it's different. And Elon Musk as well has got a hell of a lot. And Elon Musk probably is the catalyst for all of this, actually, I would say.
Right. Yeah, that's what I always tell people. They're like, well, autism is talked about, but there's so many false narratives going around. And I'm like, well, let's do a little discovery on that false narrative you just talked about. But that's the benefit, is it's being talked about more than ever. And you have a podcast, Parents Unheard. What's the mindset behind it and your mission with it?
Was that your idea?
No, it was actually your idea, but I ran with it.
Okay, it was my idea.
So RFK did a couple of speeches last year, didn't he, about autism specifically. And both of us got very frustrated. Not at RFK, we 100% were on board of everything he was saying, but the response in the UK.
Yes.
Just so many low support needs adults with their very cushy businesses going, that's not me. I don't have a nappy. I pay taxes. I do this, this, and this. It's like, well, he's not talking about you.
No.
He really isn't. And he's so obviously not talking about you. And are you really that unaware of other autistic people's experience that you can only make this about you? I found it really frustrating. And we spoke about it a lot. And we were like, no, actually, we need to be a part of some kind of a change. So we started the podcast, and it's kind of gradually changed directions. I think at first it was just, it was kind of just about that as the beginning of everything that RFK was saying and wanting to show the perspective of profound need parents. But very quickly we started talking to lots of professionals who perhaps had these more alternative views. And we were like, whoa, we've really stumbled something on here that in the UK we really don't talk about.
Wow.
And the podcast has really helped us.
Yeah.
It has really shown us what avenues to explore with Ronnie. It's really introduced us to so many incredible professionals that I'm so glad we started it, because I question where we'd be now if we hadn't have done it.
Totally. That's similar for me with the cancer journey. Just the amount of connections I've made and the professional I've made and everything I've learned on the biomed side of things, which a lot of it with autism and cancer is very similar. It's like, I knew none of this before this started. Absolutely none of it. And so,
in terms of like for any parent that listens to us or any parent listening to this that's autistic child or not, my best piece of advice for them is to learn how to interpret research or to read carefully the clinical description, like the experiences in clinic. So I don't think that what's written in research is necessarily everything. There is also clinical stories that have actually happened when people have been supported that can be very, very useful. So rather than just listening to what the news says or even what your friend says about X, Y, and Z, there's lots of different competing narratives on autism. Go out and find the one that works for you for whatever reason. So for us, we've chosen to take the attitude and the positive attitude that we can do a hell of a lot to help Ronnie. And that has come through this podcast because, like Kaylee says, it's opened the door. For example, we would not have done PX Docs. We didn't even know about it before we started the podcast. So there's always going to be someone out there that tells you what you're doing is wrong, but you need to find out for yourself that what you're doing is right, regardless of what someone else says. Because I guarantee you, tomorrow or the next day, someone's going to tell us what we're doing is wrong, and we can just basically tell them, so what? We know. Right. We know what we're doing. We're confident. Rather than, I heard it from such and such, so I'm doing it. No, I've made a very clear and informed decision about this.
Yeah. And I always joke, the more people that are telling you you're doing it wrong, you're probably doing it right.
Yeah. Exactly.
Definitely in this country.
Right. What are your hopes for the future for Ronnie?
Well, just that for me, it's that he's number one is that he's not in any pain or discomfort, that he's happy. And the second one is that he's able to communicate. And how he communicates, I don't mind. But I think if he's not in pain anymore and he can say he wants a thing and then we can give it to him, or he can tell us how he feels and we can give him support, that will take away 99.9% of his frustrations. And then I'll be happy.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, because most of his meltdowns at the moment are definitely when he feels misunderstood or because he can't really conceptualize waiting, even though we have understood him. If it's not happening immediately, then that's going to cause a meltdown. But yeah, if we just had that way, one of him progressing his understanding But also, as you say, any form of communication, that is like, that would definitely be my goal for him.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is if there's a parent listening right now who feels completely unseen, which I'm sure you can relate to, what would you say to them?
Well, I would really, I mean, okay, social media gets a really bad rep. And I know that since I've been on social media, I go on it too much. I'm aware of that. However, I have connected with so many other mums through social media. They have become like online friends. We message each other every single day. They give me the best advice. And it's made me feel part of a community. I don't really feel alone now about Ronnie because I've got so many other mums around the world. They're not just in the UK who I can go to and I can ask a question and they're going to have experienced it and they're going to have advice on that. And they've also opened our eyes to so much therapy, haven't they? I mean, we wouldn't have found gaps without a mum who I speak to. She's from the UK, but she actually goes to see Dr. Tony in America. And she is just a fountain of knowledge for autistic children. So I would just say, try and get on social media. Obviously, try and limit your screen time. I know that it's not great, but make your connections there. Find your people. They exist.
Yeah, that's awesome. Have you been able to find community of dads, Joe?
No, I haven't even looked.
Yeah.
You don't seek it in the same way.
No, it's not really. No, it's not me. I'm such a loner. I like to literally all day today. I've just been sat reading. Again, the gut and psychology syndrome book in so much detail. I mean, like if you look at the line, like look how many notes I've been making. It's like just every single page is just constant notes. So that's really the way that I am, and I'm happy doing that. And I've obviously got all my books here. And I'm not really like that's just the way that I know myself quite well. I think in that regard.
Yeah.
And I would, if a group of dads invited me to talk with them, I would say yes, I would do it, but I wouldn't necessarily go and seek it out.
Yeah.
I don't feel like I need it.
That's such a guy thing.
Yeah. It is. Yeah.
I'm with you. Oh man, this has been an awesome conversation. I'll close with this question. It's kind of a heavy hitter.
Okay.
If Ronnie could tell your story, what would they say about you?
Wow. I hope that Ronnie feels like his parents are relentless at understanding him and advocating for him. I hope that he feels supported. I hope that he recognizes the effort that we've gone to, I guess, to get him into a school that supports him correctly and where they regulate him and that he feels loved. I hope that that's how he feels and that's how he sees us.
Good answer. I'll take that too.
Yeah, that was money. So is he homeschooled or he's going?
No, he's in a special school.
How's that?
We fought really hard for that.
Oh, that's right.
My main reason for fighting actually for it so hard was that we also have our daughter Darcy, and my hope is to homeschool her. And one thing that I'm always really conscious of is that I don't want Ronnie's disability to take from her childhood or for us to feel like we favour him because we have to put so much effort in. And so if he is in a school where I know that he is safe, where he has occupational therapy there, he has speech and language therapy there, then I know that she will always know she's got that time with me. I home educate her and we work really hard on the things that she loves and she feels seen.
Yeah. That's so cool. So is school going well for him?
Yeah, he loves it. Yeah.
Wonderful.
I mean, he's just gone back after Easter and when his chaperone came to pick him up, he was like this, like really giddy, smiling, and she was like, Ronnie! Yeah, he just loves it. I mean, when he gets there, they go in a ball pit and then they go to the park. I mean, what 5-year-old doesn't want that?
Yeah. Living a dream.
Yeah, exactly.
Your podcast is Parents Unheard, and it's on Apple, Spotify, YouTube? Anywhere
Not
else?
yet, but we're going to put it on YouTube soon.
Okay, on YouTube soon. Yeah. Watch out, there might. I'm like a strike away from being cut off.
Really? What did they tell you? What you said?
Yeah, one of them. What was the word? Chelation was talked about.
Okay.
Okay.
And they said I was spreading medical misinformation.
Oh.
Okay. Right.
And then half the time I'll get an email that says like, oh, it's still posted, but you cannot monetize for this, and this, which I don't monetize anyways. So I'm like, whatever, cool.
But it's, so Spotify is really committed to free speech, right? So they'll just let you get away with it. And I think Substack as well.
Yes, and Apple. I've never had any issues with either of them. So it's cool. It's cool. So you're there. Where else can people find you?
We've got the Instagram, and I think we put the podcast through Amazon, didn't we?
Maybe.
He says maybe. We certainly used to. Whether or not we still do, I know that most of the listeners were from Apple and Spotify, weren't they? So whether or not you've stopped, you better check that.
But we are. I mean, we're we sort of started this as an experiment, but it seemed to have worked. So I think we're going to spend a bit of time in the next month or so just taking it a bit more seriously. I think that was the idea of maybe going to YouTube, recording, like using video, coming up with a different way to grow it, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, you should, 100%. The more platforms out there, the better. So I'm super pumped that we've come across each other, and we've been able to sit down a couple times now and get to know each other more. Your story is inspirational for sure, and I know it's encouragement for a lot of parents out there who are going down this path of, finding more ways to help their child. So if you're listening, make sure to follow them and join in the journey. Thank you so much, guys, for being on. Any last thoughts?
I was just going to say, if anyone's listening and they just want to connect, then just message us because we do always reply.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And if you're a mom out there that's looking for a little community, hit them up. If there's a dad, you and Joe could talk about you could talk about science.
Message. What's our handle at Parents Unheard?
Yeah.
Instagram at Parents Unheard, and message Kaylee, and then get that to me, and we can email because I like email.
So old school.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. We love these conversations, and our goal is for all of you parents to be seen and heard in community with one another, inspired and equipped to take on this life. Just remember one thing: if you don't hear anything else, if you don't remember anything from this week's episode, hear this: you are enough. You have what it takes. Thanks again for being here.